want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day, my book, The Mirror of Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you.
Straight all day.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, what you get is the mindset, the method, the philosophy, the book, the show, known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is hustling. Today we are talking about hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Learning how to play the game that you're in. That's the angle that we're talking about here when we talk about hustling. It means understanding the game that you're in, and then learning how to actually play that game. And the way that you play the game is based on the way that it's got to be based on the way the game is set up, based on the rules of that particular game. So you may have a certain way that you like to play. You may have a certain way that you were taught to play. But when you get into a new environment, or you're dealing with new people, or just things change over time, because things always change over time, you got to adapt and understand what game you're in, understand how the rules may have changed, or how the rules may differ from what you expected them to be, or what you thought they were back when you learned some other rules. And you got to make your adjustments. And if you don't make your adjustments, what happens is the game will force adjustments on you, probably adjustments that you won't be so happy about and you won't be so comfortable with. I came to the idea of this topic because I was watching on Netflix a show called Last Chance U. And I mentioned this show probably 100, 200 episodes ago when I was watching the previous season of it. And I don't even watch too much televised media, but I do like this show because it's sports based and it's about athletes who is a football show. It's based on athletes who had in some form some kind of a D1 scholarship offer, or maybe they were playing at a Division I school, and then the players who are on the team that they're following the junior college team, just to be clear, junior college team somewhere in the middle of, quote unquote, middle of nowhere America. And a lot of the players on the team, at least the ones that get featured, the majority of them were at Division I schools. Maybe they were at, I don't know, USC or Florida State or South Carolina or Clemson or Penn State or Michigan, and they had their scholarship and they were doing their thing, but then they messed up. Either they messed up academically, they got into some type of legal situation, or they messed up, maybe they just weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing on the football field. Something caused them to mess up that situation. They ended up off that D1 scholarship, and now they're at this junior college trying to rebuild their careers, rebuild their reputations. The talent that they have on the football field is never in question. It's clear that they have the talent to perform on the field. Their problem, a lot of these players, at least the ones that the show follows and chronicles, is that they made some mistake away from the field that has caused them to end up at this junior college in the middle of nowhere when they used to be at this big time program with all these beautiful facilities and all the great perks and bonuses you get of being a Division I football player at a major university. Now, on a side note, I didn't play football. I played basketball, but I went to school at Penn State University. I went specifically to Penn State Altoona, but I spent a lot of time on the state college campus, and I knew some athletes on there. I knew some female athletes and some male athletes, and there was a female athlete friend that I had one year who would showed me a whole lot of the facilities, because she was a somebody on campus, let's put it that way. And she showed me some of the football players' facilities at a school like Penn State. And Penn State's a big time college football program, and the facilities that they have, and because the way that people talk these days with athletes, not getting paid, and the schools making all this money off the backs of the athletes, which is 100% true. At the same time, the experience that the athletes get while they're playing, the type of facilities that they have, the type of equipment that they get is, it's top-notch stuff, what these athletes get access to. And I'm bringing that up to kind of paint the picture of what these athletes on this show, Last Chance U on Netflix, what they're going through. Imagine being at a place, any of you who goes to one of these big schools, you ever been to one and seen the facilities that the athletes get, and then you look at what they had to deal with when they go to these JUCOs where there's no big money. There are not a whole lot of boosters or donors putting up millions of dollars. Just as when I'm recording this, just not too long ago, Florida State They fired their football coach in the middle of the football season because the coach had been underperforming for the year plus that he had been the coach. And as I'm reading the article, because I wanted to find out how much money the school was going to owe the coach, because I know he signed a long-term contract, they owed him some $20+ million still remaining on his contract when they fired this guy. And they said in the article that a bunch of boosters, I mean, people who went to the school or they're just supporters of the program, they pulled together $20 million to buy this guy out of his contract and fire him from the football team job. Now, I'm telling you that to tell you that these boosters that you get that will put their money together and come up with $20 million on a whim, like they did at Florida State, like they could do somewhere like Penn State or Michigan or USC or Colorado or Texas or any of these big football programs. JUCOs don't have those kind of communities. All right? They're not boosting together $20 million. They might be able, I don't even think they could put together $20,000 with the boosters from around these communities. That's how small these schools are. So imagine going from that big school to this little school, and now you're here and you got this coach getting at you, and you still got to go to school and take these classes, and you're not sure what your future is going to look like. The one thing you have going for you is your football talent, and there's a whole lot of things going on in your mind, I would assume. I've never been in that specific situation, but I would assume. Now, and I've given you all this background on Last Chance U, back to why specifically we're talking about this. The coach of the football team, in one particular episode, he was having a meeting with the team, and they're all in the auditorium listening to him. And the coach is going on a little bit of a rant about the fact that several of the players haven't been showing up to class. And the ones who have been showing up to class have been underperforming in class. And any of you who has played a college sport, even if you follow college sports, even if you didn't play, you didn't have to go to college, you know that in order to participate in collegiate athletics, you must go to class, you must be a student full time, and you must maintain a certain grade point average, which is pretty hard to do if you're not actually attending the classes, especially when you're an athlete and everybody on the campus knows who you are. They know you're an athlete. So when you're there, everybody knows who you are. And when you're not there, it's very obvious that you're not there. So these players, these student athletes, were making the mistake of not going to class, not getting good grades. And one of the things that the coaches said, the main sentence that he said that led to this episode, was he said, I understood, because the coach used to be a player himself. And he said to the players, look, I understood when I was in school, I didn't really like school. I didn't like the whole class aspect of it. I didn't like having to get certain grades. I just wanted to play football. Like many of you just want to play football. So I want y'all to understand something. I realized, coach still talking, that because I was a hustler, I knew that all I needed to do was get a certain grade. I didn't need to be an amazing student. Didn't need to make the dean's list. I didn't need to be valedictorian. All I needed to do was get a minimum grade. If I got this minimum grade, that would allow me to keep playing football, because that's the thing that I really wanted to do. So the coach was basically leveling with his players. Well, I know there are some coaches out there, maybe some of you are listening to this right now, you'll tell your players, look, you need to do well in school because you'll need your education for the future, because look, you might not make it to the NBA or the NFL, because it'll make you a better person. There's some things that you're going to get in class that you're not going to get on the basketball court or the football field. So you may have different angles for why your students need to do what they need to do. Your players rather need to do what they need to do as students. This coach was coming from I'm gonna just tell y'all straight up what it is. I know most of you don't give a damn about school, and I'm not going to try to convince you to give a damn about it, but I want you to understand that the only way you can do the thing you really want, which is play football, is you have to do this school thing. That's a hustle. It is a hustle when you just want to play a sport, but you still got to go to school at the same time. So on that note is how this episode came to be. I told you when I was a student myself, I did the same thing that this coach was basically telling his players. Nobody told me it, but I realized it myself, and we'll get into that. We've gotten into it before. We'll get into it a little bit more as we get into this episode. But today is about your game. Whatever your game happens to be, doesn't have to be sports, and understanding within your game how to play it in such a way to get to where you need to get to and getting what you want to get out of it. Because let's be honest, most of us, no, let me not say most of us, some of us at times in life, I think all of us at certain times in life, we're going to be in circumstances in which there are things that we have to do that we don't really want to do. However, if we don't do those things, we can't get to the next level, which is the thing we really want. So in other words, you're at point A. What you really want to do is get to point C, but the only way to get to point C is you must complete point B. And there are times in life for every single one of us when we really, really, really do not want anything to do with point B. We just want to go from A to C, but we can't. So we got to go through point B. Going through point B is a hustle. That's what today's episode is about. You do not have to love it. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to agree with it. But you must understand it is part of the game. And if you're not willing to be a hustler and get through point B doing what you need to do, then you may never even make it to point C. So that's what we're talking about here today. Everyone clear on that? Good. Let's move into point number one. Today's topic, once again, is hustling. Learning to play the game that you're in. Point number one. Remember what we're in, ladies and gentlemen. And everything that we do, we are in what I have called many times a results-based business or a performance-based business. It's both. You got to perform in order to get results. You can't get results without performing. Everything in life is judged by its end results. Now, again, while I know some people will tell you that maybe the process will be judged or you need to do things this way and that way, in the end, in life, for every single one of us, you will ultimately be judged on the results that you produce or the results which you do not produce. If you produce results, people won't be able to question you too hard about how you achieved your outcomes. And if you do not achieve results, there is no amount of explanation or story or excuse that will forgive the fact that you were unable to produce a result. I've told you many times how probably by my junior year of high school, and then my junior and senior years of high school, and then my freshman year of college, I was BSing in school, BS junior, senior year of high school, BS freshman year of college. My sophomore year of college, I was at a new campus. I didn't really know anybody, and I didn't really go out or do nothing. So I did a whole lot of schoolwork, and I actually did really well my sophomore year. But then my junior and senior years, I went right back to BS. And so my last 6 years of formal education, 5 out of those 6 years, I was bullshitting in the classroom, bullshitting on my studies, bullshitting on homework and tests and projects and all that stuff. And I wouldn't even say that I wouldn't say that I'm proud of it, but also wouldn't say that I'm not proud of it. It's just the hustle. That was just the game that I was in. All right, I'm just going to put it out there. It's just there's no emotion attached to it, I guess is the best way that I can think of it off the top of my head. And I'm telling you all that to explain to you that I understood that, all right, I just want to get out of high school so I can get onto this college experience because it seemed like it would be more fun than the high school experience. So by my junior year, and I knew I needed to graduate. You can't go to college if you don't graduate from high school. So I knew I needed to do enough, just the bare minimum, get a C average, graduate from high school, which is pretty much what I did. But I went to what they call a magnet school. So my C average at that school was actually like a B plus weighted against all the other schools in the city. So I guess I'm a little bit smart. Then in college, it was the exact same thing. I knew I needed a bare minimum GPA. I never even knew what the bare GPA was. I just knew I needed to get a C. I knew a C was a passing grade. A C is like average. A C is like you did enough. If you're a smart person and you get a C, that means you just did enough work. You didn't really apply yourself, but you did the bare minimum to get by. That's pretty much what I did. Now, there are some people out there who maybe if you don't pick up on the work that easily, you're not that good at sitting in the classroom and being lectured to and learning through textbooks. Maybe if you had to work really hard to get a C. I did not work really hard to get my C. I skated by and did the bare minimum to get my C. So I guess I was lucky in that way, if we want to call it that. But I knew what I needed to do. I knew I needed to stay eligible to play basketball. I knew I needed to have at least a C in order to get a college degree. Since I was already there and I knew I was going to be there for 4 years, I wasn't one and done. I wasn't LeBron. I wasn't foregoing my college eligibility to go to the pros. I knew I'd be there 4 years, so I might as well get the degree. And at that time, that was probably like one of the last waves of it mattering if you had a college degree or not. I mean, I guess it still matters now, depending on how you utilize it and what field you go into. But nobody ever asked me, hey, do you have a college degree? Nobody asked me that question because nobody gives a damn. But again, maybe that's just specific to what I do for a living. But I've always said, anyway, how I would BS in school, but I ended up getting my degree, which is what, ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about here? Results-based business. The business of going to college for Dre Baldwin resulted in a degree in business with a focus in management and marketing. See, all that story about how I BS'd and had a C average and did just enough work to get by, nobody really gives a damn about that. Maybe some people, maybe if you get interested in me, you want to hear my story, you'll listen to that. But only thing that matters is, all right, did you go to college? Yes. Do you have a degree? Yes. What's your degree in business? That's all people actually want to know. All right, all the details, Most people, 99% of people on this planet, if they hear my name, will not give a damn about all those details that I just gave you. Or I'm giving it to you because I think maybe you care a little bit since you're listening to the show. But the only thing anybody ever asks about is, did you produce the result? Did you graduate college? You went to college? Yes. Did you graduate? Yes. We all judge quickly and at a glance when we're dealing with other people. Why? Because we're all narcissists. We're all more focused on us than we are on others. We don't have that time. We don't want to give that time to other people. So we go at a glance, take a quick look at you. All right, do you check the box? You either do or you don't. If you don't like how things have gone so far and whatever you're doing, you have the option to keep going and change the end results, because the end result is the only thing people will care about anyway. The story part, the part in between the beginning and the end, that only matters if you reach a result, because then there's some people who will hear about your result and don't want to know how you did it, which is what I just gave you. There is no end result until you have decided that you're at the end of what you're doing. And in episode 1278, we just talked about this. The winners in life are the people who choose to keep going. And keeping going is a choice. It's not something that happens to you. It's not something that's bestowed upon you. It's a choice that you get to make. But listen, sometimes in life, it doesn't make sense to keep going. Sometimes in life, it makes sense to walk away from something. Before I played basketball, I talked about this in my book, Working Your Game. I played baseball. It made sense for me to not become a winner in baseball by continuing to go. It was time for me to walk away and do something different. Episode 1308, we talked about making smarter decisions in life. So you need to figure out, first of all, what is the end result you're trying to achieve? That's what we're talking about here in point one. What is your end result, and how does this current thing that you're dealing with, even if you don't love it, how is this part of the hustle of getting you to the end result? If it is not part of the hustle of getting you to the end result, maybe you don't need to do it at all. But if you are thinking about how it is, then I would assume that it probably has something to do with it. It's probably some type of requirement or something that you got to go through in order to get to what you really want to get to. Then what you need to remind yourself of is what I'm giving you here in point number one, that you are in a results-based business. If you do not take the necessary steps to get to the results, nobody cares about the story of what happened in between, because there is no in between, because you didn't reach the end. Now, the only way there's an in between is when you have a beginning where you started and an end, the result. But if you do not produce an end in the form of a result, there's no such thing as the in between. Then you just became a person who used up all that time and have nothing to show for it, because nobody wants to hear a story of a person who did not achieve the final outcome. Point number two. Today's topic is hustling, learning to play the game that you're in, whatever your game happens to be. Point number two is remain flexible in how you will play your game, knowing that the end result is the most important factor. So you notice a theme here today. That's all about getting to that end result. Episode number 734 talked about keeping your opinions flexible, keeping your options open mentally in the way that you think. There's a guy in the NBA, plays for the LA Clippers now. He's won a couple championships. Goes by the name of Kawhi Leonard. When he was in college, he played the power forward position. He was in basketball what we call a, quote, big man, close quote, on his team. The reason why he played the big man position is not necessarily because that was his full skill set. It's because his team just didn't have a whole lot of size. And based on Kawhi's ability, he could help the team best in that position, or he was the best option to help the team at that position. He couldn't even play, quote unquote, his position or his game maybe the way that he wanted to on that team at that time. But what Kawhi told the story of was that his coach in college told all his players this saying. He said, the board man gets paid. In other words, the guy who grabs a whole bunch of rebounds is going to draw a lot of attention to himself. And because you're drawing attention to yourself, he was playing at, I believe it was San Diego State, which is I think it was San Diego State, whatever school. It doesn't matter what school it was. But the coach was intimating to his players that if you grab a whole lot of rebounds, that stat alone is going to draw the attention of professional basketball scouts. That means they'll come to our games and watch you play, and that could possibly help you get to where you really want to go, which is playing professional basketball. So what the coach was doing was baiting them. He was dangling the carrot in front of them, knowing what they were already thinking. Same thing this coach on Last Chance U was doing, Kawhi Leonard's coach did in college. He knew that the players there, what they really cared about was playing in the NBA. So the coach figured, all right, how can I dangle this carrot of playing in the NBA in front of these players in such a way that causes them to take actions that will help this team right now? That was what the coach was doing. So the coach had the hustler mindset, and he knew how to, I guess you can call this playing a little mind trick on his players to get them to help the team right now in order to help themselves tomorrow. You follow what I'm saying here? So he told the players the board man gets paid. In other words, he was incentivizing his players to grab more rebounds, which of course is going to help your basketball team. You got players who are hungry to grab as many rebounds as possible, which would help the team win games. And it would also help that player get seen. And the coach happened to be right. They helped the team win games by grabbing rebounds. And Kawhi helped himself by getting scouts to come to his games. He eventually got drafted as a first-round pick into the NBA, and the rest became history. This is the hustler's mindset. So those of you out there who are in leadership positions, maybe you have some people who are following you or are under your direction right now. You're trying to get them to do certain things and they don't really want to do it because this is not the thing they really want to do. They really want to do the next step thing, but they got to go through this step. So how can you get them to actually be engaged in this step? You need to think creatively the same way that Kawhi Leonard's college coach thought, which is incentivize people to do what you need them to do now because, and not lying to them, but telling them that if you do this thing right here, right now, this will help you get to the thing that you actually want to get to. So it may take a little bit of creative thinking on your part, but listen, we got over 800 hours of material here that will help you figure out what that creative idea would be. Kobe Bryant, another guy who everyone's heard of. He doesn't play anymore, but he was a professional basketball player as well. Not far off the size of a guy like Kawhi Leonard. When Kobe was in high school, he went to Lower Merion High School, which is right outside of my home city of Philadelphia, PA. Kobe Bryant played center on his high school basketball team. You know what that means, to play center? He was the tallest guy on the team. So when you watch basketball, who's somebody that's tall? So Shaquille O'Neal. You know how Shaquille O'Neal is the biggest guy on the court all the time? On Kobe's high school team, Kobe was Shaquille O'Neal in terms of size, proportional to the rest of his teammates. So he was the center on the team because he was the tallest guy. Now, of course, Kobe had the skill set to play pretty much any position amongst high school players. He was that good, that talented. But on that team, the best way Kobe could help the team was being at that center position. Now, Kobe, as far as I know, he didn't complain about the fact that he was asked to play center on his high school team. He knew that that's what the team needed. And he also knew, as a hustler, Kobe understood, all right, if I'm being asked to play center, even though the coach knows this is not my natural position, that must mean, think about this, must mean we don't have anybody else who can play center. Which must mean, and I'm assuming this is what Kobe could have been thinking, that if I just do this job as well as the coach asked me to, the coach will never have a reason to take me out of the game because, as we go back to what I just said, that Kobe might have been thinking, there's nobody to take my spot. We don't have anybody else who can play center. So as long as I do what the coach asked me to do, I'm going to be on the court every game, every minute. And if I'm on the court and I have game, then it's inevitable that somebody's going to notice that I have skills. And it's inevitable that's going to lead me to opportunities at the next level. So I doubt Kobe was so excited to play center on his high school team, but I think he was excited about getting scouted by college coaches. I think he was excited about the prospect of maybe leaping college and going straight from high school to the NBA. I think he was excited about the fact that tons of fans would come to his team's games because his team kept winning games because they heard about this guy named Kobe who was dominating the high school circuit. So even though he might not have been excited about that point B thing that he had to go through, he understood that going through point B would take him from A to C very easily. And that's exactly what he did. He didn't complain about it. He still showed his game. It was still obvious that he was pretty good. He got drafted into the NBA. They didn't ask him to play center when he got to the Lakers. They asked him to play whatever his natural position was, I guess shooting guard at the time, and that's what Kobe Bryant did. So understanding the game, that even though you may have to go through something that you don't really want to go through right now, it could help you if you embrace it. It could be more of an opportunity for you to do this thing than the thing that you actually want to do if you're paying attention. In politics, for example, and I'm talking about not just politics the way that I've talked about it here, meaning doing things to advance your own interests, but the actual industry of politics, like the government, Washington, D.C., all of that. Politics is a game that favors the hustlers. I think we can agree. We have any politicians who listen to this show? I'm not sure. If there are, I haven't heard from many of them. But politicians, often I don't pay that much attention to politics, but often I hear politicians being accused by the people they're supposed to be serving of changing their minds or promising one thing in order to get themselves elected, right? And then they get elected and they do something different. This is an element of the hustle. Now, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, this is part of hustling. You get people to buy into you by communicating in one way, and then as soon as they're bought in, all of a sudden that communication changes. When I was in college, one of my coaches, he was a hustler. He hustled in this way. When I came to visit the campus, he was the nicest guy, very friendly, smiling, laughing, joking, very easygoing guy. But he did tip me off to the hustle because he told me, look, Dre, if you decide to come to school here, when you get on that court and I'm the coach, right now I'm just being a recruiter. This is what he said to me. My father was with me. He said, look, I'm being a recruiter right now. Okay. But I want you to understand that when you come here and you come the first day of practice, you're not going to be dealing with this friendly, nice, jovial guy who's cracking jokes and laughing and smiling. I'm not going to be like that on the court. The hustle is I'm going to become a different person. And he wasn't lying. That's exactly who he became. Now, some people don't even tell you that part. He was gracious enough to tell me that part up front. But there are some coaches out there who won't tell you. So they'll be the likable guy when they're recruiting you. But as soon as you get there, they flip Jekyll and Hyde and you didn't even know it was going to happen. But that's the hustle. But now you know because I'm telling you up front. In episode number 747, I talked about why and how to be political in life is understanding that sometimes you got to play the game one way that you may not even agree with so much just to get to where you want to get to. The Greek philosopher Plato has a saying, has a quote where he said, "Those who are too smart to engage in politics are punished by being governed by those who are dumber." In other words, those of you who think you are above politics, you are too righteous for politics, you are too principled for politics. Your character is too strong to be engaged in doing anything political, meaning hustling, playing the game a certain way. Understand that if you don't want to be political, the political people will take advantage of you. Point number 3, skill in life is never enough. Neither are good intentions. Understanding in life, there are plenty of highly skilled, good people walking this earth who have less than what their skills say they should have because they haven't mastered the hustle of their game yet. In college basketball, I failed to master the hustle later on when I got a different coach at that same school. I failed to master the hustle of understanding, all right, if I want to play professional basketball, maybe my best bet is to at least be on the team so I can play in the games and get some game experience, and maybe, just maybe, playing at this small school, I might get seen somewhere that might help me get into the pros. That wasn't really the case, but I still could have been on the team. I had nothing to lose by being on the basketball team, but I failed to master that hustle and ended up not being on the team. It ended up not hurting me in the long run because I was able to make it happen anyway, but that was a failure of understanding the hustle. So I wish someone had made what I'm telling you right now. I wish someone had recorded this back then, 20 years ago almost, that I could have heard this and then I would have had a better understanding. I would have made different decisions. What all this means for you, when we're talking about skill never being enough, just because you're good at what you do doesn't mean you're going to get to where you want to get to. You got to understand how to utilize your skill to hustle. What this means is you must always be fishing for more angles or new angles from which you can master the hustle. The better you master the hustle, the less energy you will need to expend, the less time it will take you to get from point A to that point C, the less you may even need to use your skill. If you use the right amount of hustle, you meet the right people, you're in the right place at the right time, you might not even need to use 100% of your skill to get to where you want to get to. You might only need to use 50% of your skill because the other 50% is taken care of by the relationships that you have, because the game is always evolving, right? In music, it used to be people would put their music on a record. Then you had cassette tapes, then you had CDs, then you had downloads, now you got streaming. The hustle is never ending. So if you've been in the music industry, or let's say you've been listening to music, let's say all that time, things are always changing. So right now we got streaming, but I guarantee you it's not always going to be streaming. 20 years from now, we probably won't have the same setup of listening to music that we have right now. Just like 20 years ago, we had something different. And 20 years before that, it was something different. The hustle is always changing. So your hustle must always be evolving. That means you got to be paying attention to what the hell is going on in the game, so the game does not pass you by and you don't wake up one day wondering what the hell happened because you were asleep while the whole game was changing around you. Let's recap today's topic, which is hustling, learning to play the game that you're in. I heard a football coach was saying this to his junior college players. Listen, the hustle is you just got to get C's so you can stay eligible so you can play college football, because I know that's what y'all really want to do. Coach didn't even bother trying to sell these guys on education and being a person who has something to fall back on in life. He said, all right, I know all you care about is playing football. So listen, here's the hustle. You got to be eligible. And if you don't go to class, you can't be eligible. That's the hustle. Point number 1. Remember what we're in, ladies and gentlemen, a results-based business. Everything is judged by its end results. All people want to know about you and your life is, did you produce the end result of whatever you started? People do not want to hear your whole story. People do not want to know all the contingencies and all the problems that you face and all your guts and glory and the setbacks you've overcome. People don't really care about you that much. All they want to know is, did you produce the end result? If you did not, they don't want to hear anything else. And there is no end result, by the way, until you decided that you're at the end. Listen to episode 1278 where I talked about that. But also at the same time, Maybe there's time to get to the end and maybe choose a different hustle, which I talked about in episode 1308, making smarter decisions. Point number 2, remain flexible in how you'll play the game, knowing that the end result is the most important factor. Kawhi Leonard, Kobe Bryant, 2 guys who played, quote, out of position in the amateur ranks before they became professional athletes. Both of them were so good, even playing out of position, that they still got scouted, they still got drafted, they still ended up in the NBA, and they still ended up as superstar champion basketball players. So you don't have to have everything go your way if you want to get to where you want to get to in life. Only thing you need to do is understand that you are in a hustle. If you're trying to get to point C, point B may not be exactly what you want, but you must be smart enough to understand that you got to play the game. Politicians do this all the time. They may promise one thing to get elected, and then they do something different after they get elected. That's the hustle. Like it or not, the Greek philosopher Plato said, those who are too smart to engage in politics, aka the hustle, are punished by being governed by those who are dumber. If you don't want to be political, you don't want to be a hustler, the political people will take advantage of you. Point number 3. Skill is never enough. Talent is never enough. Game is never enough. No matter how much you work on your game, game alone is not enough unless hustle is part of your game. Okay? Good intentions are not enough. There are plenty of highly skilled people, good people with great intentions who work really hard, walking this earth right now, who have less than what their skill set says they should have. And the reason why is that they haven't mastered the hustle of their game. They don't know how to take what they have and actually leverage it to its best effect to get what they want to get to. If you fail at that, you will be an underachieving individual, no matter how much skill you have, because you'll never be able to maximize your skill and cash out, so to speak, on your skill set. And the skills that you need, the hustle that you need, the way things are working is always changing, is always evolving. So you must stay on point and continue to pay attention at all times, because you never know when the game is going to change up on your ass. Work on your game. Dre all day.